What's up everybody, it's Kiyodo, and welcome to Dragon Project. In this video, I will be covering the basic fundamentals of a Heat Spear, ability recommendations for the Heat Spear, and some advanced techniques to get the most out of your skills. First off, let's go over the abilities that can help you in battle. Now there's a few ways to build a Heat Spear, and with the RNG of ability changes, you're never too sure what you're going to get. Personally, I prefer a damage focused build that implements a faster heat gauge charge so that I can get in more Skyfalls, but some prefer to go all out on Skyfall damage for a singular huge burst of DPS. If you're looking to be more versatile with other weapons or magi, then you can stack elemental damage like fire or water instead. On the other hand, if you wanted to use spears of different element types, then spear damage could also prove to be useful. Overall, I would recommend 1. Faster heat gauge charge, 2. Skyfall damage, 3. Elemental damage, and then 4. Spear damage in that order. But this will differ between players since it's my personal preference. Now that you have your abilities decided, I'll explain efficient attack rotation. First things first, always try to use the onslaught technique by swiping the roll, then tapping during your roll to initiate the onslaught. You're doing it right if your hunter is poking repeatedly instead of cleaving an area with the regular attack. Spear users typically prefer to use the onslaught over regular attacks because the last poke deals a decent amount of damage and adds fatigue to the behemoth. For a Heat Spear, onslaught also charges the heat gauge much faster than regular attacks, so it's best to make it your normal attack rotation. One thing to note is that the last poke of onslaught leaves your hunter vulnerable since the attack animation is long and you can't roll cancel out of it. So if you want to charge your heat gauge safely, try roll canceling your onslaught before the last hit so you can repeatedly poke without leaving yourself open for a couple of seconds. Sure, it's not as effective as finishing the onslaught, but surviving a fight matters more than building up a heat gauge and then dying. No matter how far the heat gauge is filled, you can tap and hold to charge up a Skyfall attack, which makes your character jump up and strike down, dealing massive damage. One thing to note when using Skyfall is knowing your jump distance. Skyfall can only jump so far, and behemoths have a mechanic which understands that you want to jump if you're charging a Skyfall, like the same how it is for when you're casting magi, so they'll naturally try to move out of range or knock you out of the animation. If your Skyfall is out of reach, you can roll while charging to cancel the animation and save your heat gauge for better timing, and if you're about to get hit by a behemoth, you might as well roll out of the way too. Lastly, let's move on to the advanced techniques for maximizing the utility of Skyfall. You want to build up the behemoth's fatigue gauge so that it goes into fatigue, making your Skyfall damage ridiculously strong. Performing enough onslaughts will eventually fill up the gauge, so you can do it by yourself even if it's slow, but you don't always have to use your Skyfall for fatigue behemoths, since you can use Skyfall to fatigue a behemoth faster and help the rest of your party. If you understand a behemoth's attack pattern, or if you're just lucky, you can line up a Skyfall to hit the weak or SP weak markers and contribute tons of fatigue charge. Sometimes you'll want to use Skyfall to avoid taking damage when behemoths use an attack that's difficult to dodge. In this case, you can target your jump to land outside of the behemoth's hitbox and maybe even deal some damage while you're at it. Another convoluted way of avoiding damage is to break parts to interrupt the behemoth's attack. If you know what direction a behemoth is going, you can pre-charge your Skyfall and jump in its path with perfect timing. Well, that's it for my Heat Spear guide. I hope that this video has opened up new possibilities for you. It's always great to see more Heat Spear users since they can blow up tanky behemoths no problem. This has been Kiyodo. If you have any questions or if I missed something important, leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and ding that bell. I'll see you all later.